Hello everyone and welcome to Vocal and the communication show that we have every week, all about dedicated to business communication. I'm Barbara Seymour Giordano, your host, speaker coach, writer, and show director. I'd like to talk just a moment about our show is presented by the Tech Coast Angels, and it's the biggest angel organization in the U.S. Impressive. Tech Coast Angels is actively seeking great startups to fund, providing more than just money. TCA brings connections, knowledge, mentoring, and operational assistance to bold, and I know you all are bold, early stage entrepreneurs with game-changing ideas. TCA is here to help you to turn your vision into a sustainable and successful business. For more information, please visit techcoastangels.com and sign up for their newsletter when you arrive. It's full of amazing information and great places to network. So just a reminder, there's sometimes a slight audio delay, and we're at the mercy of the cable companies, so we do our best to keep the gap small, but it can be there. And other than that, today's show, I just want to jump right in and get to the point, because this is a big one. I work with angel investors a lot. And, well, frankly, they're impatient because they hear a lot of presentations. And we're going to really delve into that topic today with Frank Peters when we talk about how not to bore an angel investor. Very important. Pitch tips every presenter must know. And Frank has the answers to those. And he's such a great presenter himself. I'm going to let him introduce himself. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Frank Peters, angel investor. Welcome,
Hey, let's
Frank.
hear it. Hey.
Woohoo!
Oh, excuse me. Yes, all right. Yeah, come on. All right, I'm Frank Peters. I'm a long-term member of Tech Coast Angels. I think I've just counted my 20th investment as a Tech Coast Angel. I've made another dozen outside of Tech Coast Angels too, so I love early stage investing. And then, of course, I love these shows. I do the Frank Peters show. You've all heard of that, I'm sure. And so anyway, I'm delighted to be here today, Barbara, talking about presentations. I realized some time ago that, confession time I say, that I would get angry, I would get upset, I would get antsy, I suppose is the proper way to say it, when I'm sitting in a room, with all my angel peers. And, the entrepreneur has great excitement, opportunity of a lifetime to be in front of that audience, and they blow it. Mostly because they just don't know what, they should be doing or should not be doing. What a shame. A great opportunity missed. So anyway, we'll talk about that today, huh?
Absolutely. We're going to definitely jump into that. I have a ton of questions. But let's start out with probably the broadest question and the most important. Why is the pitch so important? And, like you said, you guys get bored when it's not. I mean, what does that signify?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the first time you're in front of angel investors, and that's what we're talking about, there's a funnel, we call it. You make application, and then somebody will call you up, and they'll ask questions, and you keep moving your way down the funnel until you have the opportunity to come in and present, say in Orange County, my home base. We'll often have 20, 30, maybe 40 people in the room to listen to your presentation. And so that's oftentimes the first time we're hearing about you, and you have to excite us. You have to tell us about your product and get us all excited about you too. It's basically it's a sales process, just like so many things, selling widgets, I suppose. But we're not there to buy your product. I think that's one mistake that entrepreneurs sometimes make. They want to demo the product. They want us to get all excited about the widget or gadget or user interface. And there's a subtlety, there's a little bit difference, the product, yes, but we want to know about the markets and the possibilities for returns, those kinds of things too. So it is very important. And during that time, like at Tech Coast Angels, you get 15 minutes to pitch, and then equal amount of time, question and answer. So anyway, a lot of time for us to really sink our teeth into the deal and get a sense of who you are. And so your presentation is critical there. You can see who's well prepared and who isn't, who's had a coach and who hasn't. Who knows that, that, like in any business, there are emotionally charged terms, Barbara, right? That makes sense, emotionally charged
Yeah.
terms. And there are in
Yes.
angel investing too. For example, don't come in and tell us, and just digress for a second, don't come in and tell us how you're going to buy back our shares in 2 years. That we don't want to hear that. And that's not a good idea. So anyway, that maybe is beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But anyway, the
No, but it's
pitch is
important.
all
It's
important.
important, Frank.
Yeah,
No, it
it
is
is.
because I've seen you guys do this. Oh no. So
Yeah, he didn't do any homework. He
when
or she
certain
didn't
things,
do any homework. Yeah,
no, and
exactly.
that's really important, and that's what we're going to go over today because we want to give the entrepreneur or the startup the ability to have the tools to really be able to present and put their best foot forward. Because as I've
Yeah,
heard all of you say so many times, you're really investing, in a sense, in the person. Yes, you
that's
in the
right.
product or the service as well, but it's the person. And so we've got to talk about
Yes.
authenticity too. But let's get to the second question. So what does it say to an investor about a presenter when they're ill prepared? How do you all read that?
Well, I guess it doesn't it doesn't build confidence for one, right? I mean, maybe years
Mm.
ago, that's why I started the Frank Peters show, is I saw too many entrepreneurs come in, work their way into the process, and then, it was so disappointing to see them, blow up. Or, I would assume that many of the entrepreneurs had good ideas, but the fact that they couldn't present them well and didn't know what to say, what not to say, how to make their case, that was all just technique. But because they didn't know, what they were getting into, they would go, through the trap door, I suppose. And what a shame. What a shame. So by having an effective presentation, you come in and you inspire confidence. It's really that simple. And again, um, we're going to be looking at who is this person, because it's a long-term relationship, right? These deals. We used to say 3 to 5 years. I don't know what we're saying now, but it's a lot longer than 3 to 5 years. So you think about, do you want to have a relationship with this person for such a long time? Now, you're not going to make a decision in just those 15 minutes, but you might decide against. You might rule out a deal because they're not so well prepared. And in Los Angeles, I just say Los Angeles in general for Southern California, we are drinking from our fire hose when it comes to deals, right? We have, if you come in and blow up, it's next. Who's next? Who's standing in line? We get 50 applications a month or more. So, unfortunately, there's not a lot of time for us to hold your hand and look deeply into your eyes and coach you on your presentation. You have to do a little bit of homework on your own. So that's why we're here today. This is the kind of show you should be paying attention to. Listen and learn. And unfortunately,
That's fantastic.
oftentimes I hear my angel peers say it is, well, fix this and come back. But, that's just because we're all so nice. We don't want to tell you, like I will tell you, that you seldom get the chance to come back. It's just another example of life's not fair. It's very seldom you get to come back. What's the expression? You only get one chance to make a first impression. So your presentation is important.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, also too, I mean,
Yes.
I see that, just the times I've been at Tech Coast Angels and worked, I see a lot of holes in people's presentations.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
Right.
really about getting that information before they present. to make sure that those holes are, that they seek guidance before they go to present to someone. Wouldn't you
Yes.
recommend that?
And
Or
now holes don't have to be, you don't have to give a complete presentation, but I like the way you put holes. Is you have to make your case well, but oftentimes I encourage entrepreneurs to leave some things out. And you'll have opportunities during the, it's a lengthy question and answer period to continue to present, right? You don't have to say everything. That's what I think one of the mistakes is. Entrepreneurs come in and their slides are so busy because they feel like they got to say everything, and if they don't say it, then you won't love the deal like they know it and love it. And if you did know and love it the way they did, then you'd obviously invest. So I got to use 15-point font and say everything on this slide. Ah! Don't
right.
do that.
Oh no! Oh no! Please no.
So
Well,
I often
okay.
encourage.
So let me ask you. You encourage yes?
Well, I often encourage entrepreneurs to leave, a thought hanging, or you don't have to answer every single, you don't have to anticipate every single question because that's what the question and answer period is for. So. But you do have to make a strong case and cover all the basics. And we're going to talk about that today, right? There are some slides I don't want to see anymore, right? But
yes,
those are
good.
kind of like my pet peeves. And not everybody agrees with me. Can I give you pet peeve number one? Are you ready for pet peeve number one?
Oh, yes, please.
Is when you start your PowerPoint presentation, there's always some, your company logo on there. Well, I guess the first thing is don't say confidential in the footer, right? That's like poison right off the bat. For one, it shows everybody in the room that you, one, haven't done your homework, and two, that you're not trusting. And trust is, we're going to trust you with our money. So it behooves you to, at least on this first time you're presenting, to reciprocate in spirit. So what you have to do, however you feel about it, I'll hold your hand later. But take confidential, proprietary, for internal use only, all that stuff off of your slides. Don't say that. Okay, that really wasn't pet peeve number one. That was just a warm-up. Okay, pet peeve number one. When you stand, did I learn this from you? I probably learned this from you. When you stand up in front of the room and your slide, mycompany.com has been sitting there on the screen for a minute, well, maybe somebody introduced you, is the minute you stand up, boom, click to the next slide. Click to the next slide. And say whatever you're going to say on the next slide. Hi, I'm Frank Peters. I've been working hard in a really cool little company. But just clicking that first slide conveys that the presentation has started and that you know that you have a time limit. You're conveying to us immediately by something as simple as that. Stand up and click to the next slide and then ramble on all you want. But the presentation has started and I can relax, not thinking that you're going to give us a 14-minute introduction.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, let's give our viewers an idea, Frank, of how a presentation is structured, because what's the flow? I mean, they may not know. I didn't know until I met all of you and I got the quick introduction to it all. How could you break that down for me and just let everybody know?
Now, Barbara, you put together a little 1, 2, 3 there, so I'll probably skip something really important. But right off the bat, well, here's pet peeve number 2, is we can take it fast. You don't need to give us a little, what would you say, timeline of the invention of the personal computer and how you fit into it. All right, we already know that. So get right to it and tell your story. We do this. You'd be surprised. You're laughing, but so many people come into the room and give us this long wind-up, right? And we don't know until the third slide. Sometimes it's the first question that gets asked. What do you do? I'm not sure I understand. So say, we make this, we do this, we're built a website that does that. Simple, huh? And to solve a certain problem,
right.
Tell us what the problem is and tell us who's going to buy it. And then again, you're not going to do a demo. No matter how much you love your user interface, don't do a demo because we don't care. And but how about what if you've already been on CNN, MSNBC, KCBS, Channel 9, Barbara, and they've already profiled you, and millions of people across Southern California have seen that video clip. What do you think? You think we would like to see that clip too? No! No, I don't want to see it. No, don't show it to me. I have seen enough of those little, happy people, your news anchors, you know, gushing over your startup. I really don't care. Right? Get right to the basics. Tell us what you do, who the market is, how you're going to make money, right? And get started in your presentation. And then pretty soon you're going to talk about the team, right? We want to know the team. And I think there's a critical point to be made about the team. When do you introduce the team? It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? Isn't that the right story? Just right is the answer, right?
That is.
If you introduce your team too soon, nobody cares, right? We don't know what you're doing, so we don't care.
Right.
If you wait too long till the end, then we've stopped listening to you and we wonder just who are these guys. So somewhere right in the middle, right? Somewhere like on slide 3, 4, or 5, before you get too far into us, but you tell us what you're doing, establish a little credibility, and tell us who the team is. Because again, Barbara, we invest in the people. So the team is going to really, encourage us. Maybe we like your market, we like your product, we like the space you're in, we say, and then, wow, look at this team and their credentials. Wow, you're selling them. Then you can move on to some of the later slides.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really huge. I was giving them a loose outline like I sent you today, like we were talking about. So they can follow along and they have that foundational structure. So let's get into the nitty gritty then as we keep going. And I love your stories, Frank. They're fantastic. So keep them coming because this is a fresh perspective.
Is it time for another pet peeve?
Oh gosh, yes, throw one out.
Time for another pet peeve is don't start your presentation with a summary, right? I say in Toastmasters, by the way, on my website, I've got a little do's and don'ts. There's only 25 of them. Do's and don'ts of how to pitch. So it's free. Go to the Frank Peters Show and you'll see it right there. My little rant on do's and don'ts. So don't start with an introduction.
And it's great, everybody. Absolutely go there.
I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. I mean, where did they learn that, Barbara? They learned that in Toastmasters or something? Tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them, and then tell them at the end what you did tell them. That's not what you're doing here. And no summaries either. That's like the bookends. No introductions, no summaries. Why? I got to tell you why. There's half the time when you're presenting, no matter how perfect and well prepared you are, half of us in the room stop listening around slide number 4 because we had a question come up for us, right? Something you said triggered a thought. We've stopped listening, and we're half listening to you. You keep rambling on, and then at the end you're going to do a summary. So you're just wasting time. What you can't be really selling until you get to the question and answer period. So get through that presentation as fast as you can, no summaries, and drop right into the question and answer period. And what you want is the question and answer period to begin is every hand in the room to go up. That's a good presentation, right? Well, not if they say, I still don't know what you do, but that's what you want is, so get to that as fast as you can. So no introductions and no summaries. That's what really, when I see that happening, I start squirming, right? Because I got questions. And you're summarizing.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, Frank. Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, Open, is just be careful, entrepreneurs and startups, when you're out there and you're pitching, don't introduce yourself. That comes with your team. It may feel a little weird, but get right into the story that you're going to tell. What's your problem and how you're going to solve it. That, right? And then you can come up in your team somewhere wherever you feel it fits best in the middle. But don't reveal who you are, that comes because you're part of your team. And I think that's a natural thing that entrepreneurs just want to do and speakers want to do. But it's best to build some suspense, right? And then you reveal it later on.
Exactly.
So
Suspense.
that's a
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Right.
We love suspense.
Exactly.
So so Frank, I have a question here, and it's a very interesting question that I'd like you to address, and it's from
First,
Jeff
I have
Weiss.
something I want to say, Barbara.
And
I want to interrupt for a
what's
second
that?
and talk about. I have a speech coach, and it's a, it's been the key to my success. I've spoken around the world in the past couple of years, Barbara, in Madrid and Istanbul, and I got to be. I haven't seen you in a while. I didn't get to tell you that in Warsaw, Poland, just a little over a month ago, I wasn't on the program. No speaking opportunity at all. The big international European Business Angel Conference. And one of the board members came up to me and said, Frank, what are you going to be speaking on? What panel are you on? And I said, no, I'm not speaking. He says, we're going to change that right now. You're going to kick off the gala dinner tonight and tell a few jokes.
Oh my God.
And the best way to do that is with only like 1 hour's notice. And so they did, and because they had such a good time with me last year. And anyway, I have learned a ton from this woman. I'd just like to say Barbara has been terrific. She's coached me on my presentations. I try to come up with a new talk every spring at least. And past couple of years I've run it by Barbara, and she grills me, and there's nothing as scary as standing up in a room with just you at the podium and her in the audience. And she's going to catch every screw up. But anyway, thank you,
Glaring at you.
Barbara. I've learned so much.
Oh,
I've learned
thank you,
a
Frank.
ton
Thanks for being
from
so
Barbara. Yes.
well, and I've learned a ton from you, and thank you for being my new word, so coachable, which is what I learned from you, is that the importance of coachability, and that's huge. You take it all in and you make it your own, and that's important. So thank you. See,
Right.
it's a big love fest.
Well, let's dovetail that into the presentation, the pitch again, because when you're done with your pitch, and then the question and answer period, we invite you, I say kick you out of the room for 10 minutes, but we very politely invite you to step outside while we talk about you, without you there. And it's candid, and then somebody is going to be scribe. And I want to be scribe. And usually it's a little Ben Franklin method, right? All the things we liked about you. And, glass half empty, glass half full. And I'm going to give you that feedback when you come back in the room. And, we try to be gentle and, be very constructive. But one of the things that the guys will throw out, they get their antenna tuned for it is, and all it takes to sink a deal is somebody to say, I don't think he's coachable. Oof. Sometimes I think that's a low blow too, but I don't think he's coachable. Barbara, can I ask you a question? Why would somebody in the audience say something like that? How does coachability get conveyed, do you think, in a 15-minute presentation?
Well,
Or a question?
yeah, well, we even talk about that in the 90-second pitches. And coachability is there. It comes out really, it's very pronounced in Q&A. But what it is, it's a level of flexibility. And we can see if someone's willing to take the feedback and then come back and integrate it. It doesn't have to be every single thing that we suggest, but there's a lot of listening and then implementing it to show that they really care and that they really want to work together and collaborate. Now we're collaborating. But the minute that someone starts saying, well, I know better, there's no collaboration, so there's no deal, right?
Well, I often say that there's a dilemma here for the presenter, right? We want someone who's a good listener and coachable, but at the same time will never take no for an answer, right? So there's a fine line you have to walk there. It's not easy but conveying that you're respectful too is such a simple thing to say. When you come into a room full of investors, you don't know who the real thought leaders are in the room. somebody might ask you what you might think would be very simple, maybe they don't get it kind of question, but you don't know. He could
Yeah.
be the president of that network. So you always want to be respectful, huh? Unless of course it's
That's
being
really
asked a
good
question,
words.
then you can say anything in response. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Well, okay, I have a really interesting question that was asked to me before, and this is from Jeff Weiss. I'm going to send it to screen, and let's take a look at what Jeff asks. He asks, is an
Okay.
advisory board slide helpful to include in the presentation? Interesting question.
Mm. Well, I mean, I suppose it depends. Should say who's on your advisory board, right? Um, so let me take the glass half empty side first, okay? Yes, the answer is yes, but you're tickling me now. I got to say, don't put your attorney on there, no matter what kind of a wonderful man or woman they are. Is we all have great attorneys, so your attorney doesn't go on your advisory board, okay? And then two, friends and family probably shouldn't. We're often sensitive to that. So if there are professional relationships that you have, keep people from industry. Um, some might say academia, but again, I'd be thinking, well, he's a professor who knows and loves you. So perhaps people that we can't second guess. Absolutely. If you've got an advisory board, I mean, I'm digressing here too much, but many times entrepreneurs come to me and they don't know where to start. There are so many things they want to do to prepare themselves to get funded. And one thing I often say to them is start working on building an advisory board. I mean, oftentimes it doesn't cost any money at all. It's something you can start doing even while you're building out your product and working on your pitch and figuring out, compensation packages for your key team members. You can start building an advisory board. So that's going to go a long way to establishing credibility with us. Sure.
So what might that look like as far as an advisory board? Because is it one slide? Is it three or four key people? And who might what key positions would interest an angel investor? Because I haven't really seen it, so I need some clarity here because I can't help with that question
Well,
at all.
I'll tell you. I guess I'll get specific now. Is we had a company come in a little while ago, and they had an advisory board slide, and on it was one of our most distinguished members. Okay, Dave Burkus. If you can get Dave Burkus to put his name on your advisory board, it's like I'm reaching for my checkbook, just by seeing his name on there. It's great credibility, right? So now that's not going to be easy, and you don't even know who I'm talking about, perhaps, some of you, but if you have networked your way into Tech Coast Angels, which is perhaps the best way to, right, come to some of our events and get to know us, and could tell your story to one of our really distinguished members and get them to buy in, then that's going to create great buzz for you. A lot of us will sit right up and pay attention if we hear that one of our well-respected peers,
So pretty much know
academia,
your audience then, and
attorneys, not so much. Yes,
yeah, stay
right,
away from,
sure.
yeah, okay, good,
Hmm.
good. So somebody who's a heavyweight in that organization is key. Okay,
Hmm.
good.
Right.
And we have a few questions here. Let's see. Hmm. Well, let's take one from Renee. And Renee asks, what do you do when I think it says you get to the point and the judges do not seem interested?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a tough one, huh? Um, well, maybe, that's an indication of, if you've gone through the funnel, right? And maybe, Barbara, this is a question kind of like judges are more like a fast pitch contest, right? And we're talking about pitching in front of an audience of, angel investors. But That's probably a critique of your presentation if you haven't generated enough interest. Now that might be I can recall a presentation just recently. It was done very well, but you could see it went over flat, and I'm sure the entrepreneur struggled with why, because she had done a good job. And it was only because we had heard a pitch kind of just like that very recently. So that's something you may not know, right? That there's a little trend, and we're starting to think that this is another like Me Too kind of deal, not that unique. So we don't get excited about that. That might be
Yeah,
the
good,
case.
good.
Hard
So
to say.
let me ask you, yeah, definitely. Could be. Uh, Let me ask you about just sort of the functionality of the slide. Is there a rule per se of what a slide should look like? How many photos? How many words?
Yeah.
What do you
Right.
follow as
I
far as look
see.
and
I
feel,
see
and
behind
why?
you. Right behind you on your desk, I see you've got Gar Reynolds Presentations Zen. There's a takeaway. Barbara and I talked about this beforehand. Everybody who's about to pitch, go out and buy this book. And I don't think it's Kindle. You want to have the book, and because the pictures and everything in there is just so fantastic. And I learned of this book. I watched a presentation done by David Rose. He's the founder of the New York Angels, and he had taken this concept, this style of creating a presentation, the presentation Zen style. And when I saw that, it was on YouTube somewhere, I flipped. And so I encourage everybody to follow this approach. And it basically is, don't put words up there. Use imagery as much as you can. Not to get too technical, but maybe a single image. Many times I see slides and, there's money and a handshake and I don't know, all of these conflicting images on one
The
slide. You don't
world?
want that. Yeah, the world, yeah. Conquest of the world, I guess. A single image, something like that, would be very
Yeah.
effective. And then none of your bullets should be readable by the audience. Oh, what did he say? None of your bullets should be readable by the audience. I think I read somewhere that we can read 6 times faster than you can speak. So if you have a coherent thought up there as one of your bullets, we're going to, one, stop listening to you, read that, thinking of a question, do I get it, do I understand it? Meanwhile, you're blathering away, you've lost control of your audience. As simple as that. So you just put keywords up there, like intellectual property is a keyword. We'll read that in a second, but we don't know what your story is. And all you need are those trigger words to tell us your intellectual property story, right? So you don't have to put down, 2 sentences that tell the story and disrupt your presentation. Don't do that. Use just trigger words. That way, what I always say is nobody can, well, let me put it this way. Oftentimes after I speak, somebody will say, well, can we have your presentation, Frank? And I say, well, nobody will understand it because there aren't any complete sentences. There are no complete thoughts in there. It's all up to me to unfold, to reveal the message as I go through the presentation. So those are a couple of thoughts that come to mind.
Which keeps it, yeah, and by doing so, Frank, you keep the presentation really fresh,
yes,
right? It's a surprise, and it's unfolding before us, and you transport us to another
exactly.
place, which is what the point of
Right.
a pitch or a presentation is,
So that every time you click to the
to
next
capture our
slide,
imagination.
yes, it's excitement. Where's he going next? Where's he taking me? I'm enjoying this. This guy's fun. I'm not sure about his pre-money valuation. No, I'm kidding. But I like the story and I'm feeling entertained. That'll go a long way because you know what happens, I think, is angels, if you do a good job at this and you tell stories, we'll be able to repeat some of that when we go home. And that's when you've really done an effective presentation. If we're able to tell our friends or who weren't at the meeting, or some of our friends outside of Tech Coast Angels, or our spouse, about this great opportunity we heard today. And so I say, don't orate, narrate. Don't memorize your presentation and deliver it to us like you're doing an infomercial. Don't do that. Tell us a story and something that maybe we'll, be able to relate and tell at home too. So anyway, that's a thought, huh?
And that's huge.
Yeah.
The ability to be memorable is everything, right?
Yes, right. Simple as
That's
that.
really, really big. So Frank, you touched on financials,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just from me seeing financial,
yeah,
when I feel like the person is ready to pull out their laser pointer, I start to sweat for a couple of reasons. That
yeah,
means that the font is really small, and
yeah.
it's going to be hard to see.
And there are all
And
kinds of
so,
pitfalls
you
awaiting
know,
the presenter too. If you put, what I say is the more details you put on your financial slide, well, think of it. We're just like any subset of humanity. There are some people that don't care about details, and others who, really want to sink their teeth into those details. So the more details you put up there, I often say somebody will drag you into the swamp over your EBITDA, right? Or your gross margins look too high and accordingly naive. So what you want to convey with financials basically is just show us that, based on your analysis, your credible analysis, that there is a substantial market out there. That's what you have to convey to win. So how many rows and columns do you need to do that? That may be up to you. But I always say less is more. If you show us like a graph, that might convey just enough. If we want to know more, that's great. Every hand in the room goes up at the end of your presentation. They want to know more. That's a win for you. What you can always say is, could we go over this at our next meeting? Could we dig into the financials at our next meeting? And then you've got a follow-up meeting. And that's better than not having a follow-up meeting, right? That's your objective, is to get a follow-up meeting. It's just that simple. So less is more when it comes to financials. And then the other thing I got to say, a pet peeve, is we go after you too. Is if you use too much precision, right? Sometimes somebody will put, an 8-digit number up there, and fill in all of the digits, right? What you have to do is truncate, round to 1,000 and truncate, right? And so anyway, we're not going to believe your numbers. Here, let me put it this way. I saw a presentation in Cambridge, Massachusetts back in March, done by a real fantastic presenter. And when he pulls up his financial slide, everybody's sitting there, and we all think, we're such smart alecks, and we're just waiting for him to say the wrong thing, and we'll go at him. We'll tear his numbers apart, right? And what he says is, I don't know what to say about this other than to tell you that these numbers are wrong. I don't know how they're wrong, but I know they're not going to match reality. And the whole room cracks up because nobody's ever admitted that in the past. Never heard that before in my whole life. And he disarmed us. We all loved him for that, too. We all had a laugh, not at his expense either. And then he was able to tell us some of his, assumptions and, show us, the opportunity. So you can borrow that, too. I tell you one thing, I know these numbers aren't true. Well, don't put it that way. I know these numbers aren't right, I suppose is the way to put it.
Well, and I love what you just said, and I want to say that out loud to everyone, is that, so many times we're seeing a lot of people, and we can just kind of get to the things that need improvement right away. But for everybody who's out there watching the show, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if we didn't really care. So if it comes out wrong, or it might sound a little harsh, just know, give us some, some good kudos in the bank, because we really do care. And sometimes it doesn't always come out the best way because we can get impatient because we see a lot of people. But we do want you to succeed, and we do want you to hit it out of the park. So I wanted to just make that little disclaimer.
And
hey,
then,
Frank, I have a question here, and it's
sitting
along the
there.
line.
Sure. Go ahead, Barbara. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're all sitting there. What were you saying? Okay. So
Well,
this, Frank,
we're
this
sitting
question
in the
is
room because I keep stepping on you, Barbara. I'm going to yield to you.
That's that delay. So, Frank, go ahead. Finish that thought before I go to this question.
Well, we're angel investors and we are doing it. Yes, we're doing it to make money, but also because we remember a time in our own career when we were running an exciting software company, in my case. We remember that thrill. We remember the challenges we faced. And for me, I remember the people who were my mentors, my advisors, my board members who helped me through the rough times. And so I suppose, at some level feel obligated to give. We want to know if you're coachable. We want to get involved, and we want to get involved with people who are willing to learn and listen, be coachable. So we're interested.
That's great. That's great. So thank you for sharing that. So let's take this question from Rod, and he asks how best to present the valuation slide to capture investor interest and credibility of the numbers.
Well, now, it sounds like there's really two thoughts there, right? Credibility of the numbers probably goes to your financials, right? And so let's speak to that for a second. I'll just tell you how to game the system. Okay, you understand that concept? How to game the system is, don't come in and show us a 100 million, 200 million. Somebody came in it was probably 2 months ago now, with a $500 million hockey stick, right? In year 5, he had such a huge opportunity. He was going to get to $500 million in revenue. Now, we know Tech Coast Angels collectively, we've invested in about 180, approaching 200 companies. We know how often that happens, like zilch. So you don't have to come in and buffalo us like that. What we'd rather see is something more credible and something that shows, like, continued growth from year to year. And we're going to ask you, just what's going to make a difference there in year 2 or year 3 that really gives your numbers a boost. Maybe it's a second part of the development, or just what is it? Approaching new markets. So you have to get to a certain number that we think is, I often call it investor grade, right? If at the end of 5 years, if you're trying to raise, let's say, several $1,000,000, but at the end of 5 years you're only going to have a $7 million company, then that's not investor grade. Does that make sense? You have to show that the company is going to grow and grow rapidly, address very large markets, and if you can do that, then that's a win. You're ready to go on to the next slide. And the next slide, the valuation slide, is okay. What does it cost us? What's the valuation? And basically, there are, I often, anyway, there are many ways to come up with a valuation, a pre-money valuation, but there's only one that really matters. And that's what the market will bear, or as I hear others often describe, what are the market comparables, right? So you'd be well advised to come in and ask us, what do you think
Good
of
advice.
valid pre-money, for a company like this? That one side of asking. And 2, when we see somebody come in and their pre-money number is not right and it's it's too high, we often think that's really camouflaging their intentions in some way, and it all boils down to the same thing every time, every single time. It's, I don't want to give up control. I want to take your money, but I want to run the company the way I want to run it. And, that's natural. I would have felt the same way when I was in your shoes. But, again, you want to come, with your hat in your hands, and you're here to listen and to learn. We want to see you as coachable. So be careful of those. So what is the right number? Most deals that we see today are in the under $1 million pre-money valuation. Oop, we just lost half our audience. Or 1.0, 1.5. Over the past few years, there's been a lot of pressure on pre-money valuations. Now, that's not all bad because of the economy, angels have been affected too, and so our ability to raise, a whole boatload of money to fund your startup, that's been affected too in the past few years. So you don't have to worry about lower valuation. Start thinking about what could you do with maybe two or $300,000. Maybe you can't do anything. Maybe you need lots and lots of money. But what could you do with $300,000, $400,000? Move your company to the next level at a lower valuation. A lower raise, a lower valuation kind of go hand in hand. So it's not something to be that concerned about. If you can come get some money and move your company to the next milestone, then come back for more. Oh, you've established great credibility. The guys are looking for that. You'll get looking for more.
That's wonderful. That's terrific. Let's talk a little bit about, well, let me actually take this question, and then I have a question for you. But there is a question here that goes back to the beginning, which is, what makes the best intro a founder can open up with when presenting in front of a group of angels?
Oh, I've got a good answer for that. I've got a good answer. One thing that in really any presentation you'd like to accomplish is get your audience engaged, right? Get them involved. So I was working with a buddy, and he had a website for the diving industry. What a great question to open up with. How many people in the room have, are certified divers? Have ever gone snorkeling or scuba diving? And see how many hands go up in the room. And all of a sudden, one, you've surprised and delighted us, and two, we feel a connection with you right away, right? So look for some opportunity like that to engage, get people to raise their hands maybe. What do you think of that, Barbara?
It's interesting. I like that. That's one technique. And the other thing is also to Gary Vaynerchuk, he's written this book called The Thank You Economy, and I mention it quite often.
Oh, yes.
Is to really and he talks about, because he's a big investor as well, and he talks about hearing these presentations and that not enough of the presenters or the entrepreneurs are talking about what it is like to actually be the person benefiting from this product or service, and to thank them in a way without thanking them. You don't say thank you in the presentation, but you show that you care by really understanding their position as well. And that's, I really think, by opening up with a hook, which is your problem, and then you go into your solution. So your hook, your open, can also be a question, which is along the lines of what you're saying. How many divers are there here? And then you find out something about your group, and all of a sudden they're freaked out that you may ask them a question. That's always good, because people lean in
you
for
turn
questions.
The tables on us right away. Yeah.
Right. Whoa. So
I got to pay attention to this person.
It's
exactly.
true. It's so true.
That's right. Right.
So
how about apparel? Barbara, how about
what to
apparel,
wear?
though? I've often critiqued entrepreneurs on their apparel, and isn't that a low blow to talk about somebody's but it is kind of Hollywood, right? How do you dress for what may be the most important moment of your life, your business career anyway, when you come in and present to the Tech Coast Angels? Well, I'm chuckling here, because it is...
I am too, because I've seen you all
one
react.
thing I would say, is don't overdress. I often joke about entrepreneurs. Don't come in with a black suit if every day you're wearing, a bathing suit and flip-flops. Well, you probably can't come in a bathing suit and flip-flops, but if you come in a brand new black suit, that a three-piece suit, we're going to get a sense right away that that's not really you, and that may not bubble up to our consciousness right away, but is this person, am I getting a true sense of who this person is? So be genuine and don't overdress.
No, I love that. I love that, because it's believability. The question is, are you in line with your brand? I mean, if you're the owner of Wahoo Fish Tacos, are you going to wear a suit?
Right.
Probably not.
Right. Right.
So stay true to that. And I think that watching all of you, and I like to think of style now as our hat. Remember in the 40s when everybody wore 30s and 40s and everyone wore a hat? So a hat,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there would be a driver's hat or a top hat or a golfing hat or whatever it was. There were many different hats, and we would say that a hat would describe an occupation. Well, now we don't wear hats anymore, and people wear wardrobe. So does your wardrobe really fit your story? Right? And when that's the story becomes our brand, and because we're creating the company, there's not really any difference between our personal brand and the company brand, usually, depending on if we're creating something that's out of who we our range. But try to stay within that range and be true to it. If you don't believe it and you have any hesitation, don't wear it or don't say it, because we will sense that it's false and you don't believe it.
Very well said, Barbara. So as you're talking about hats, I'm thinking of bicycle helmet. So can I plug my new blog, CDM Cyclist, where people
Yes.
matter more than motor vehicles? My new biking blog, I'm having a thrill with it. My audience growing, I like to say, at a much faster rate than the Frank Peters show did at the same time in its early existence. So if you ride a bike or ever rode a bike, come by and check out cdmcyclist.com.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Great. Let's see. I have a question here from Jeff, and he asks Frank about on the lines of dress. How does Frank feel about some of the Silicon Valley kids and that they come to present dressed in jeans? How do you feel about that, Frank?
Well, again, that's probably if that's what they wear every day. Who's the founder of Facebook? He always wears a hooded sweatshirt, right? Everywhere he goes. If he showed up somewhere
Right.
else, nobody would recognize him. So,
Right, Mark
so
Zuckerberg, yeah.
I don't have any problem with that at all. So, I think you're going to be judged on the merits of your presentation, not on your 3-day stubble or the jeans or your footwear. You're going to be judged on the merits of your presentation. So pay attention to.
That's true, and I want to send this question to screen, or this comment, because I think it's really important, and again, it can be misconstrued. So let's take it to screen here. And the question is, what percentage of entrepreneurs are lead presenters? A visionary may not be the best presenter.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. What we want to see, though, as potential investors is we want to see the CEO, the founder of the company. You'll have an opportunity to introduce the rest of your team, and there'll come a time. So certainly during the question and answer period, you could have prearranged to have your technical guy there to answer some of those questions. And who else would you have? Oftentimes we're dealing with very small teams. So anyway, it's important to both be there. If you're just two people and a dog, you got to be there, both of you, because we want to get a sense. If you don't, it's just a missed opportunity, right? And life's not fair. You may not come back. So I wouldn't worry too much about visionary, or we want to get a sense of who you are. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be perfect either, right? There's no such thing as perfection.
Just just real and present, and that's the main thing. And seek out coaching if you can. Get a coach. Go and have somebody critique you, and you'll just get better by doing.
Right.
Most of the times we're just not comfortable in this space, but I work with a lot of engineers, a lot, and if that's a space where a lot of people are not comfortable, and doctors too,
Right.
where there's a lot of unease, but once they tap into their own voice, and just really it comes by doing, and then getting a few tips and tools, they're on fire. I can't keep them off the stage. It's wonderful.
I think
So
one
definitely
challenge
work, work,
maybe
work.
for entrepreneurs and people who approach the Tech Coast Angels looking for funding is they're so competent in so many areas, right? They have written this great software and they've identified a market, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be the world's best presenter. So, like Barbara said, find a friend at least to listen to your presentation, offer a critique.
Definitely. Frank, I'm sorry to say that we've run out of time. It went by so fast.
It did go
So
by
before we
fast.
leave, it did. Before we leave, would you do me this favor and leave 3 takeaways with our audience? What are the 3 most important things you want them to think about?
Well, one, do your homework. Get that presentations in and read it. Just that alone is going to improve your presentation 100%. I think hard to be so immodest, but listen to my show, the Frank Peters Show. I'm doing this for you, and I'm interviewing many of the thought leaders around the world in early stage investing. You'll learn a ton, and the specifics, yes, you spend some time listening to a few of the interviews before you come in. I think one, you'll feel a lot more comfortable, and two, you'll better understand the kind of things we're looking for. Number three, don't overdress. Come in
Well,
and have a
Frank,
good
thank you
time.
so much for being on the
Yes,
show.
thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much.
Oh, I hope you'll come back.
Oh, I'd love to. Be happy to, Barbara.
Okay,
I'd
good.
love
I hear
to.
I hear Winston in
That's
the background.
Yeah, that's
Hi,
Winston.
Winston.
Yeah, that's my dog.
So Frank, I'm going to. Aw, hi Winston. So thank you so much. I'm going to just sign off for now and say goodbye to the audience. Everyone, I'd like to leave you with this quote. This is from the co-founder of the World Entrepreneurship Day, that Lauren Amarante. She says, "As an entrepreneur, if you're not in an uncomfortable situation every single day, then you're doing something wrong." Something to think about until next week. And I look forward to seeing you then. Bye now.